Hey, what is up guys, MKBHD here. We knew it was coming, it was just a matter of when and for how much, but it's finally here. Google Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL are revealed. They're in the flesh now, and I have plenty of thoughts, so let's just jump right into it. So this is the phone. There are two sizes. There's the Pixel 2, the smaller one, and the Pixel 2 XL, the bigger one, like I said. And then there's a couple different colors. This pale blue color is literally called Kinda Blue, but actually that's definitely one of the more accurate product color names in a while. And there's also Clearly White and Just Black. And then with the Pixel 2 XL, the bigger one, you get just the white or the black. I'm definitely feeling this look of like a panda white contrast with the white and the black on the back. But then again, the matte black all dark look, that tuxedo is kind of tempting too. Both are pretty clean, but that's that. So the design, it's definitely the thing that hits your eye right off the bat. It's what catches your eye, and it's one of the more interesting parts of this Pixel 2. On one hand, it fixes a lot of what we didn't like about the original Pixel. It adds water resistance this year. It returns with a new pair of stereo front-facing speakers, which are awesome. The fingerprint reader stayed in the right place. It's in the middle of the back. And it's overall now more cleaned up and a more modernized look, I think. You know, the accent-colored power button is pretty dope. I'm glad that made it into the final design. And it's all this soft touch aluminum finish on the back that looks and feels a lot better in the hand. So now you have that contrast with the glass up at the back with the panda white. I don't know, it feels like an update aesthetically. But on the other hand, it adds a camera bump where there wasn't one before. It's gotten rid of the headphone jack, no headphone jack in the Pixel 2, and it still doesn't have wireless charging since it's all metal. And something about these bezels just isn't quite right. It just isn't up to 2017 standards like we're used to, I gotta say. So it's definitely not a perfect design. Like you look at this Pixel 2 XL, the bigger one, obviously the screen gets closer to the edges than before, which is impressive because it has those front-facing speakers, but it's the side bezels that make it feel weird. Like we're so used to side bezels being so thin, especially on all these other phones, it gets right up to the rail. But the thicker side bezels here on the Pixel 2 combined with the rounded corners really make it feel like the display is sort of sunken in, like it's on the inside of the phone instead of plastered onto the front of it. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain with the terrible lighting and the crowded hands-on area, but I'm doing my best. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. So with that, I'd say basically the worst part of the original Pixel, in my opinion, the design, is probably still the worst part of the Pixel 2, but everything else did get way better. The display, for example, it's great. The smaller Pixel 2 has a much more familiar form factor with the bigger bezels on the forehead and the chin. That now gets a 1080p AMOLED display. And the Pixel 2 XL, which, let's be real, is probably the one I'm gonna get, that now has a 6-inch Quad HD 18:9 POLED display. So right in line with 2017, a little taller than your normal 16:9. Ideally nice and bright and saturated, but of course I'll have to test that outdoors to really find out how good they are. And the specs are also now new. So Snapdragon 835, 4 gigs of RAM, pretty similar sized batteries to last year. I wouldn't say that's an upgrade, but I think it's pretty clear battery life and performance are things will have to be tested for the full review. You got a bigger display, but now it's OLED, so you know there's some pros and cons there. That I will be testing. And the software experience itself got a bit of an overhaul as well. There are some Pixel exclusive features in here in Android 8.0 Oreo that are welcome. So first of all, these wallpapers are pretty sweet. I don't know if you've noticed, but they're kind of moving a little bit. There's some stuff that you can see that moves while the rest of it stays still. They have a bunch of these included with the launcher of the phone, so that looks pretty cool. You can pick between some of those. There's some space ones, some Earth ones looking down. And then the launcher itself is a bit reorganized, so now you have the search bar at the bottom underneath the dock. So I actually think that's a good call. It's much easier to reach more often, especially because on the big screen phones, you're always stretching your finger to get all the way to the top. So the gesture swipe up to get to your app drawer is still there. All the rest is very familiar, but I've talked about Android 8.0 and all its features in the past. I think I'll link the video below if you haven't seen it already. But now since it is an OLED display, you get to add the always on display feature. So it's gonna give you your time and the logos of any notifications you might have waiting for you, so you can check that at a glance without turning the screen on of the whole phone. Nice. And then here's the dopest part about that though. There's a feature called Now Playing that if you turn this on, will take advantage of the microphones that are always on this phone. You know how they're always listening for your OK Google keyword. it just takes advantage of those and it listens for the songs in the background. So if there's any music playing nearby, say you're in a coffee shop or something, and there's a song, it'll actively tell you what song is playing, where you're at, and put it right on your lock screen without you having to do anything. And then better yet, if you double tap on it, it'll take you to a Google Assistant card about that song so you can grab the album on Spotify or Google Play Music or YouTube or whatever you want. That is pretty legit. We also now got a preview of Google Lens in the Assistant. Looks like it'll be exclusive to the Pixel, at least to start, but essentially it's like Google search for your eyeballs. So you see something you like, you can open up the Google Assistant and then hit the Lens button and it'll let you search for things with the camera. Again, and get clickable links to whatever is applicable. If it recognizes things with text in them, that's pretty easy. Object recognition is getting better with machine learning as well. So stuff like that is definitely exciting, and I'm ready to test that out as well. Oh, and how could I forget? The Pixel 2 and XL both now have the squeeze feature that we saw in that HTC U11. It's called Active Edge here, and it lets you squeeze to trigger Google Assistant and nothing else. It's not remappable. I kind of wish it was, like maybe I want to launch the camera really quickly, but you can also disable it if you're not into it. But yeah, you can now get to the Assistant faster than ever with that squeeze technology. And that's consistent with the whole theme of presentation from Google today, which is they're pushing AI first pretty hard. And then last but not least, with these new Pixel phones is one of the most anticipated upgrades from what I've seen, and that's the cameras. Both cameras. So last year's Pixels had, I'd say, the best cameras in any phones. And I'm not saying that because of DxOMark's rating. I'm saying that because it really took some of my favorite photos from any smartphone camera and was very consistent with great shots. This year, that gets an upgrade. It's a new 12 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture, optical image stabilization, and it's shaping up to, again, be an even more incredible camera. It did get the highest ever rating from DxOMark for whatever that's worth, just like every other flagship this year. But just from playing around with it in a few different lighting scenarios, I am really excited to test this thing, but it seemed to do really, really well. You may have noticed there's only one camera on the back, not two. Like a lot of these new smartphones have moved to the dual camera setup on the back, many of them for portrait mode. A single camera setup on the back of the Pixel 2 here also does portrait mode, but just with software blur, so no second lens needed, and it seems to work very well. The one and only photo I actually took with it was when I just picked up the device for the first time and opened up the front-facing camera. I turned on portrait mode for that. It's a new 8 megapixel sensor, and just took a snap. And this is the photo I got out of it. Immediately really impressive. You don't see too many front-facing cameras taking photos this good in lighting this bad. So I imagine you can get some pretty stellar stuff out of this guy with any attention to lighting. Plus, the portrait mode can continue to get better with time and learn edges better, and machine learning can take that to the next level. So overall, I'm pretty pumped for this camera. So the Pixel 2 is definitely exciting overall as a package, as a phone. I can't wait to get my hands on this thing. It's going to be $649 for the Pixel and $849 for the Pixel XL. So I think pretty fair pricing in line with some other flagships and really similar to last year. So basically, if you can get past the not quite perfect design, the flaws that you can see on the outside, I think there's an awesome pure Android experience underneath that, of course, I value. I've talked about that. I like that a lot before, and that will make it a contender for Phone of the Year for sure. Stay tuned. Either way, that's been it for the first impressions. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already for the full review, be sure to do that so you're among the first to see it. Talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.